Okay, so we will be starting this webinar. Rashi, are you there? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
Rashi. Yeah, Rashi. You are audible. Yeah, Rashi.
Okay,
Take care. Go ahead.
okay, sir. So, a very warm welcome to everyone present here on this very cold evening in India. I hope you all are doing well. We all know that we have a very special guest between us, Dr. Subbu Subramanian, Engineering Director at Meta. Meta being a globally acknowledged company, I bet everyone is enlightened with its work. We are absolutely fortunate and grateful that Dr. Subba Subramanian sir is here with us, interacting and sharing his knowledge about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and its applications. Moving forward, I would like all the alumni present here, if they are not the member of BITMA, please do register to the portal. Next up, I would like to call Vishalet Shah sir, Associate Dean of Alumni International Relations Cell. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rashi. Thank you, Professor Subramaniam. Without wasting much time, first let me introduce Dr. Subramaniam. Dr. Subbu Subramaniam, a graduate from BIT Mesra, MCA 1988-91, is a leading in the artificial intelligence infrastructure team and a 14-year veteran at Meta. He and his team built the foundations for future engineering and data-centric AI effort that powers many of Meta's present and future product experience that serve our 2 billion users worldwide. He is also an adjunct professor of computer science at University of San Francisco. Before working on AI at Meta, Subbu led the Maps infrastructure team there. Subbu and his team built the 2D maps, 3D maps, and geospatial data science foundation that power experiences for both consumers and through projects such as Data for Good humanitarian organizations to support their relief efforts. During his tenure at Meta, Subbu has worked on a variety of projects, including connectivity, mobile performance, infrastructure efficiency, user growth, and advertiser management system. Before joining Meta, Subbu was a founding member of two startups in the Silicon Valley. Prior to that, he was a researcher at IBM's Almaden Research Center, where he did research on relational and semi-structured data query processing. He holds a PhD in computer science and is an author of 20 publications and 10 patents. It is our privilege to have a guest of such a caliber. So I request Professor Subbu to please take care of. Professor Subbu, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Vishal. I am delighted to be here with my a place that I hold dearly in my heart, a place where a lot of the foundations for some of the work I've done over the years was laid. And I'm also excited that there's so many of you joining from different parts of the world and being part of this session. And I would love to share my learnings and experiences that hopefully will be of use to many of you here. Thank you for joining. So as you saw, my topic is AI, machine learning, and some practical applications. When I was studying computer science in BIT Mesra, way back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, computer science was the wave of the future. That was the area that was mystical, that people felt had a lot of potential, and many people, such as us, were drawn towards for both from a technical and deep understanding of how things would work in a world where things will be automated. And also, it was pretty lucrative, and we felt like being in that space as budding engineers, as budding youth, we could lay a foundation for a stronger future. And I'm delighted that it all worked out for us, where we were able to learn, continue to increase our curiosity in an area that was continuing to grow with us.
Professor Subramaniam, are you there? Yeah, Yeah, you
Can you
were
all see
stuck.
me here?
Yeah, it's okay. You were freezed. Professor, you are getting freezed.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, now you are audible.
Okay, can you see the presentation?
Not really. The first slide only is on the screen right now, where we are
Yeah.
seeing the topic.
Okay, sounds good. That's good. And then can you see me as well?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, looks like there was some internet issues. Um, what I was mentioning was that it was computer science was the promise of the future in the late 80s and early 90s. And AI is what it is now in a similar vein. And all of you attending here will hopefully get a taste for the promise of what AI can do and how companies like Meta and many other Silicon Valley startups have already started reaping benefits of this budding area. It's a very early stages still. And you can see, as I talk to you about some of the work that we have been doing, the potential that this space holds. All right, so before I dive deep into it, let me start by asking, what is AI? And so in this particular session, we will be discussing what AI is, what machine learning is, going over some of the foundations, technologies that form this fascinating field, and then look at practical applications all of this will bring about. So what is AI? You help AI to learn by giving it a lot of words and pictures and numbers. If the computer hears you answer a lot of questions, later on it can quickly answer your questions. But it only knows what you show it and tell it, so it's not as smart as you are, right? AI is an umbrella discipline that covers everything related to making machines smarter. Machine learning is commonly used along with AI, but it's a subset of AI. People sometimes use both words. I just wanted to make sure that people understand the difference and how where machine learning sits within AI. So again, it's an umbrella. AI is an umbrella discipline that covers everything related to making machines smarter, and machine learning is a subset of AI. All right, so this is how you can think of the various layers of machine learning and AI. You can see AI is a broader discipline. Machine learning uses certain kinds of techniques. And there is also a word you will hear, deep learning, which talks a little bit more in depth about how to extract patterns from data using what are called neural networks. Okay. And in machine learning, you can learn without explicitly programming, right? So that's very important to keep in mind. All right. Programming is about taking a complex task that you want a computer to do and describing that as a series of specific steps. Most of you are aware of it. I'm assuming a lot of you are computer programmers. You know how to do this, and it's fairly straightforward. Machine learning is a bit different. With machine learning, to get the computer to perform a complex task, you collect a set of examples of that task being done. The computer learns how to do that task from the examples that is given. This is the crux of machine learning. Okay, pay attention. It is you ask the computer to do a complex task. How? By collecting a set of examples of that task being done. So let's use that using a football example. I know there is a World Cup football going on. How will you use, how do you teach the computer to play football? Okay. So let's say take a simple step like kicking a ball. How do you how do you teach the computer how to kick a ball? In a traditional programming sort of approach, how would you do it? You will give it a series of detailed instructions. You would tell you how far to lift your foot back. You would tell you what angle to put your angle at. You would tell you how much to bend your knee, how fast to move your leg. And you would tell you exactly what you want to do, now how you want to do it, and how fast you want to do it, and the order that you should.
Which is the best time to go?
Can you please mute um, if you're not asking a question? Thank you. So if I want to teach you how to kick a ball, this is exactly how we're to do in a programming way. I will illustrate every step of the way, right? How far to lift your back, how much angle, and how to bend your knee, and so on, right? That's how programming is done. In a machine learning sort of approach, you would show a lot of examples of kicking balls, right? Maybe examples of different people kicking a ball, Messi kicking a ball, Ronaldo kicking a ball, maybe even kicking different types of balls. Instead of telling you what to do, I would get you to learn from the collected examples of people who are already able to kick a ball. This is how you teach how to kick a ball the AI/ML way. Again, give examples of people kicking balls. Show tremendous amounts of money. Young people kicking balls, old people kicking, professional kicking balls, and show that to the computer, and you'll allow it to learn. So that's the machine learning way. That's how it's different than programming, right? Now there is yet another example that I can show you, and this is much more practical, right? It's a spam example. All of us have emails, and many times spams come our way, and emails have become smart in understanding how to remove spam, right? How do they remove spam? Imagine you wanted to make your own email spam filter for school. You decided to make it using programming. If you're going to do your programming, what do? You break down recognizing spam emails into a series of steps that a computer can follow. What we would describe as a rules-based approach. You would define a set of rules. Let's say that you get an email like this with confidential and top secret, right? If there is an email that comes confidential, top secret, typically there's a lot of spams that come like that. So you add a rule to your program that says any email that mentions confidential and top secret is spam. That's what you do, right? If you're going to write program for this. But that ends up calling your colleague's email about a possible history project as spam. If somebody sends you a history project, then that may have confidential, top secret, and stuff like that. That's part of a history project where they talk about how during a war, some general sent some top secret emails, and an example of that or whatever. Then your program, because it's rules based, will consider that to be a spam. So you go back to your rules and change it so that only emails that mention confidential and money are spam. Okay. So what do? You go fix it, quote unquote, fix it by changing your rules so that only emails that mention confidential and money are spam. So emails from your colleagues, from your friends, from your fellow students and professors, safe, because your rules have been changed, right? Now what happens? Let's see. But now that ends a trash, that sends to trash useful emails from your tax agency that are confidential, while that actually has to deal with your money. Let's say the tax in the US, it's called IRS. In India, there is taxing agencies that could be sending you a confidential email that talk about money. But you don't want your filter, your rules-based engine, to be throwing it into trash. The point is, trying to do this by manually identifying the right set of rules is difficult and slow and painful. And as the set of rules get bigger and bigger and bigger over time, it becomes really difficult to manage. New rules you add will contradict or break rules that you added a month ago, right? Because you're continuing to make your program better, but then you're always discovering new scenarios where things could potentially go wrong. AI/ML is a great solution to this problem. So how do you do this? This time, if you use machine learning, all you do is you collect a set of examples of the sorts of emails that you get. You read through them and sort them into two piles, right? So you get maybe 1,000 email you got over the last 5 years. And then you say, here are the emails that are spam. Here are the emails that are legitimate. And then what happens next? Spam emails in one pile, legitimate not spam emails is in the other. Use these examples to train the computer to be able to recognize that what a spam email looks like. That's not to say that the computer might not make the same mistakes I showed before, right? If every spam email in the spam pile was a bank scam email, then there are no emails in the not spam pile that include a reference to confidential, then there is a reasonable chance that the computer could learn that references to confidential mean an email is spam. Based on the experiences that it would have had to learn from, why wouldn't it? But if you included a variety of types of spam, including some that don't mention confidential in the spam pile, and if you included a variety of not spam emails, including a few chats that mention confidential, then the computer would stand a better chance of learning how to do this well, right? So if you have enough right samples of both spam emails and not spam emails, then the computer would be able to learn. Now, this approach is becoming very ubiquitous. Machine learning is all around us. You use machine learning systems every day. I gave you an example of spam filters. All the email clients you use, they have spam filters built using machine learning. Also, Alexa, Google Now, Siri, all of this have machine learning. Systems that translate one language to another, trained on examples of documents that have been manually translated. So you have auto suggest on the phone keyboard, auto suggest that suggests what word I might want to write next is trained on examples of what has been typed before. Credit card fraud detection, trained on buy patterns to recognize a purchase that might not actually be me, and many, many, many more such examples. Okay, these are all very powerful examples of machine learning in practice already that all of us deal with almost on a daily basis. In the business space, machine learning is also everywhere. Almost all projects we do for clients today will include some element of machine learning. This is not the exclusive domain of PhDs in white coats anymore. This technology is accessible to anyone with some basic technical skills. If you can build an iPhone app, you can use machine learning. And it's increasingly becoming the most effective and most efficient way to a wider variety of tasks. Now, let's talk about how AI ML is brought to life in the context of Meta or Facebook, the company I work on. AI and ML are used in many kinds of applications at Meta. It can smartly recommend topics. For example, your Instagram Explore page will choose the post you are most interested in based on your past view history. We are very, very interested in showing you content that is tailored to your needs. Now, how do we know that? It's based on behaviors and patterns of consumption that you have had and your friends have had and other people have had around a certain topic. For example, the image on the right is my Instagram screenshot, and you can see I'm a dog person, right? I like dogs. In particular, I am a fan of this dog called Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu is a breed that I love. AI/ML is so smart that it can tell not only that I am a dog person, but that I am most interested in a particular type of dog. It'll filter out images of these other two dogs, which are German Shepherds, and share images only of Shiba Inus. What's more, AI can even tell the type of dog and specifically recommend Shiba Inus to me, right? That's amazing. Now, how does this magic happen? So far, we've seen that, hey, this is different than programming. We have seen that it's not just rules-based, but you define a set of examples and the machine learns. Now, how does this happen? Well, fundamentally, it's all mathematics, guys. It's based on fundamental mathematical principles, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. AI can represent almost everything in life in mathematical ways. For example, it can represent English words as vectors. So words are turned into numbers, right? In our case, user view history, click on post, language, all of these are defined as vectors and numbers. You can see this example below that German Shepherd has a lower vector than Shiba Inu, which is what I like more, right? We do transformations and learning on data that is applied into a machine learning model where input you put in new data and you put the output is the new model prediction. So how does it happen? So you can actually try it out yourself. There is a tool called PyTorch, and I will upload this presentation so you can use it later. This PyTorch is a tool that you can install, and you can download the notebook, which is essentially examples and editors that you can use to write machine learning programs. And you would be able to create your own machine learning code in just a few hours. Give it a shot. It's great. Okay. You're ready to write rock prediction once you install PyTorch. All right. So find an image of a dog and give it to the AI program, right? And then you basically say, here is how a simple code in PyTorch. So you can create a predictor class, and then you can say, hey, you can use these particular values and build predictor of dog types and run it. Prediction for dog 1 is Pembroke. Prediction for dog 2 is German Shepherd, based on all the data that it has seen over a long period of time, right? It's all based on vectors that are created from sample data. Cool. So that's the overall introduction to AI and machine learning and how it is used in many different contexts. But now I want to spend a few minutes to talk about how my team at Meta has used AI over the years to create maps that are ubiquitous all around us, but you may be surprised is actually not available for a good part of the world. Okay, so let me explain that. Maps are used in many different contexts within Facebook. It's used in search, it's used in commerce, events, jobs, causes, a lot of different use cases. It's used in Instagram, it's used in WhatsApp, it's used in Messenger, right? There are about 140 different use cases. The use cases are not very the same as what you have in Google Maps or Bing Maps, because those are navigation use cases. For us, it's mostly search and display use cases, right? Now, the maps that we use are all generated using AI and machine learning from satellite imagery. And then I'm going to explain to you how such a large scale data generation and processing using machine learning has led to really powerful use cases coming to life in the context of our maps applications. So how do you map with AI? In fact, there is a program that I was running called Map with AI. So it was launched in July 29 with 8 countries, and now currently it's available for the whole world. How is it done? So you use AI to detect roads, and then you enable the training of all of that data. How do you train data? You use people to label data. You ask people to say, what's a road and what's a not, and what is a street and what's a gully and what's an avenue for a very small sample, and then use that sample as your training data to generate the right model, right? So 400,000 kilometers roads are already mapped in different parts of the world that are not yet mapped. And different data sets, including building data sets from Microsoft, have been incorporated into it. And ESRA is a huge geospatial company, and their data is also getting integrated. Now, all of this is coming together in combination with AI and machine learning to generate powerful maps of the world. So I recently gave a talk in the UN World Data Forum where I was discussing the topic of mapping using AI. I was like, people thought that, hey, maps are available because for everywhere, because that's what our experience is, right? Most places you go, you have a map, you download, or you look around your phone. But the truth of the matter is that a good part of the world is not fully mapped. If you go to remote parts of India, if you go to remote parts of Asia and Africa, the roads, and especially the dirt roads, are not on the map at all. And even if they're often inaccurate because they keep changing, right? And it's a big problem, and I'll tell you why. These maps are the ones that we built over 4 years using AI are one of the most accurate in the world, and we released them publicly for 170 countries in the Humanitarian Data Exchange. So let me explain how AI is used to build the maps. First, they are built without any user data, right? Instead, 1.7 petabytes of satellite images are shown here, 1.7 petabytes of satellite images. And we worked with Columbia University and my team, which is the spatial computing team, to get it done. All right, let us zoom in closer for an example. This is a rural village in Namibia. Okay, this is a rural village in Namibia, Africa, where my colleague Alex spent 2 years teaching as a Peace Corps volunteer. This village has a population of around 300 people, almost all subsistence farmers. This is the kind of village one might expect to fit within the 1 billion people who are unmapped. And there's like, 20%, 25% of the world is still unmapped, and this is one of them. The school at the bottom of the image and the small health clinic at the top of the image had running water and electricity, and were made out of concrete and permanent materials. You can kind of see that, right? There is some buildings at the bottom here, and then there is some other buildings here, and these are having some running water and electricity. The rest of the structures are all traditional materials. If you look at some of the other settlements here, you can see thatched roofs. You can't make out what they are exactly, but they are made of traditional materials. People live here, and as you can see from the satellite imagery, there are buildings, right? Now, how does AI work? At the very bottom of the things, there is a computer vision model that can detect the roads on the high resolution satellite image. So there is a computer vision algorithm that detects roads on the high resolution satellite image. And this can be very challenging, right? Because the terrains can be very different. You can see that slowly over a period of time, the satellite image is being mapped by AI. And how does it happen? So if you look at a specific area, small area, you use homemade training data, right? You have people, humans, who are familiar with that area, look at that part of the training model, that part of the map, and then start creating a training model by drawing with hand. Oh, this is a road, this is a building, this is a parcel or in a certain area, and they define it with hands for a very small area, and the computer learns from it. You use machine learning algorithm to learn and say, aha, if these lines correspond to roads and these other lines corresponds to rivers, then I can apply the same pattern across the entire country. And instead of humans doing it over many years, computers can do it within hours, right? We can have large areas mapped using AI and ML by training small areas and feeding that into the model. And this is what we did for Nigeria, right? Again, create a small training model based on a limited set of samples, and then use your machine learning algorithms that are generated and the models that are generated from it to run and create maps for the entire country. Now, why different for different countries? Because each country is very unique in terms of how its terrain is, how its settlements are, how its structures are, right? If you go to Vietnam, you'll see a lot of thatched huts. If you go to parts of Rwanda, you'll find a lot of asbestos sheets. And each country has its own unique culture in how they are building their material based on the local resources that are available, right? So it's important that we distinguish these things using knowledge of local geography. And that is why each country has its own model that the computer is trained on. So it's not different than what you do when you sit in the window seat of an airplane, right? Our algorithm does the same thing that you do when you sit in the window side of an airplane. What do? Your brain looks outside and you say, ha, there is a house, there is a house, there is no house, there is just a forest, there is a road, right? We can do that especially when the plane is not too far from the ground. You can look down and say, hey, there is all these things that I can recognize, right? But the computer can do it even more accurately than your human eyes can. The algorithm is trying to spot any 30-meter files in which it is confident that it sees a building. As you can see here, tiles fitting that description are shaded in purple, right? It can spot both permanent structures and the farm homesteads made out of traditional materials. So if 300 people live in the village in Namibia, we know they only live in the tiles where there are buildings, instead of smearing it across the entire census block. We overlay the model census data from Columbia University, and this gives us a population estimate for each 30 by 30 meter file. So in addition to mapping these places, now we can also understand the population density of those spaces, right? Here's the thing, guys. A lot of the world is not mapped. People also don't know what's the census there, how many people live there. Now, I'll tell you when I say walk through this, how AI and machine learning will help us discover that, and in the process create powerful applications, especially in humanitarian areas. Okay. So not only we mapped the roads, now we can also map the buildings, and these will give you data about how many people live in these spaces. All right. Now let's zoom out and just repeat the same method for the entire globe. That's 1.7 petabytes of images and census data for all 7.8 billion people on Earth, right? You can apply the same technique. You can map the roads, you can map the buildings, and then you can apply all of that data to figure out the exact population density for different parts of the world, and based on AI and machine learning. Now that we know every 30-meter tile where there is a building, let's distribute census data over those tiles, right? And in addition to releasing total population estimates for each country, we release demographic breakouts, including estimates for women, men, women of reproductive age, children, youth, and elderly populations. These demographics are understandably helpful for health crises, where certain populations are more vulnerable than others, such as the elderly populations in the context of COVID-19, right? Once you have all of this data, then you can start thinking about, hey, how is this going to affect in the context of a humanitarian disaster? Be it based on fires that happen, or be it based on floods, or be it based on a disease like COVID-19. Now that you know how these maps are built, now I'm going to give you examples where I've seen organizations leveraging these maps during the coronavirus pandemic, right? So that is the AI ML applications coming to life in the context of COVID-19. And before I dive into this, I want to pause real quick to ask questions. Is everybody able to hear me? Is everybody able to follow along? Vishal, things working out?
Yes, Professor.
Okay.
Everything is fine.
Okay, cool. Is there any questions anyone has before I dive into more applications of AI and ML that my team has built at Meta?
Any questions, audience? You can put it in the chat box.
I see that's a lot of good participation here, more than, I guess, 30, 40 people.
Yes.
So I'm hoping you are able to follow along and this has been valuable for you. I just let me know if there is anything that is not clear or something is not working. Okay, I'm going to continue.
Yeah,
All right,
Professor.
so back in March, the World Bank was in a COVID-19 response meeting, and one of the key questions that arose was, where are the vulnerable people and where can they go to receive medical attention, whether they are in need of testing or a hospital bed? In Spain, the World Bank overlaid the population density maps that were built using AI and ML with health facility data from government partners and roads data from a commercial company called Mapbox. They were able to calculate how far away in minutes anyone is from their closest health facility by road. Now, we living in India can totally relate to this, right? Especially people who are from the rural places. It's important to know where your health facility is and how best to reach it. In the above map, each flag represents a health facility. In green are locations within 1 hour driving distance to their closest. The places in yellow are 1.5 hours from the closest health facility, and in red, their drive is 2 hours or more. The opacity of the color is proportional to the population. Empty areas are transparent, while very populous areas are opaque, right? So this is how you can actually generate this really cool maps that is useful for people in practice. A second study focused on dense cities where social distancing is difficult, right? I mean, think about Mumbai, or think about Delhi, or think about any of these Calcutta, very densely populated places. Social distancing is extremely hard. The German Aerospace Center and the World Bank also used pop density maps to identify potential hotspots for contagion and vulnerability in densities like Mumbai, Kinshasa, and Cairo. The red areas indicate that the population density surpasses the minimum threshold required to maintain social distance. This paper can inform city leaders and communities who are managing the pandemic because it provides an evidence-based approach to target emergency interventions and avoid a rapid spread of the virus in these hotspots. Their methodology can be easily replicated globally. So I'm happy to share a link to the paper following this session, right? So this is a lot of the stuff has been formalized into research study and publications. So this link here, dataforgood.fb.com, is a page that you should visit to learn more about the population density maps and other data sets that my team has put together in combination with Columbia University. Okay, dataforgood.fb.com. So what is Facebook Data for Good? I talked about maps, I've talked about population density, I talked about COVID. All of these are essentially applications that came to life thanks to AI and machine learning. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about the AI ML applications and a little more examples of how we have used them for humanitarian causes using Facebook Data for Good. This team is responsible for finding data sets and tools within the company that can be shared with NGOs and researchers for social impact while preserving user privacy. The map shown here is a 4G connectivity for where we are today. We generate this by looking at the patterns of speed of data packets moving between our data centers and Facebook mobile app users. You can imagine that this would be a very helpful view for an emergency response manager to have if they were deciding where to send their teams after an earthquake. They need to know where connectivity is still working. In a crisis, Facebook usage often goes up dramatically because users are trying to let friends and family know they're okay and find out if others are okay. And oftentimes this can crash the network. Data for Good started at Facebook in 2016 to address the following problem. Humanitarian organizations face critical information gaps, especially when responding to crisis, that Facebook is in a unique position to help fill, given the breadth of our user networks and the depth of our technical investments. Here you can see a map that shows what we mean. Each tile is colored by the typical level of connectivity of Facebook mobile app users. Red is 2G, blue is 3G, and yellow is 4G. India is a lot 4G, right? That's why it's yellow. But good part of the world is not. So there are three product areas for data for good. Surveys for good, deploys surveys to Facebook users around the world. Insights for impact, analyzes trends in public Facebook posts to amplify reach of public awareness campaigns, mostly for vaccinations and public health campaigns. And for each of these product areas, we have data sets based on AI and machine learning that are useful for COVID-19 response. And there is a product called Disease Prevention Maps that we built that also is useful for the pandemic. All right, so AI and machine learning produces the following different types of maps, right? There are two families of data used in these maps. In blue are maps we generate without using any Facebook user data. Instead, we combine publicly available data and combine it with things we find in high resolution satellite imagery, right? Data sets in green are generated by looking at anonymized and aggregated Facebook user data. Because the maps in blue are made without using any Facebook user data, we are able to release them openly to the public under an open license, and we typically open source the code used to generate them. We release these maps on the UN's Humanitarian Data Exchange, Amazon's AWS public datasets, and OpenStreetMaps. The map layers in green are generated by looking at anonymized and aggregated Facebook mobile app user data. This is not all Facebook mobile app users. This is only those users who have opted in to sharing their GPS data with the Facebook mobile app data. We only generate these maps in areas affected by natural disaster or public health crises. We also only allow access to this sensitive information to vetted NGOs and research institutions. Now, it isn't very fun to talk about. It isn't very fun to just talk about maps. It is much more fun to look at maps. Let's see what these maps looked like for recent crises and how they save lives. Okay. In May 2019, we released our first 3 datasets for the launch of disease prevention maps. These show the count of Facebook users compared to pre-crisis levels, the amount of movement of Facebook users, and the amount of connectivity of Facebook users. Here's a map where this data looks like for the COVID-19 response in the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, all of this is built using AI and machine learning. Tiles with more blue are areas with more users than before the crisis, and tiles in red are areas with fewer users. The arrows are showing a dramatic decrease in the amount of inbound movement to the city, San Francisco, compared to before the crisis. Both of these are a result of social distancing measures where people are working from home or universities have been closed, right? This is for India. Here's an excellent analysis of population movement trends across India. And as you can see, during the pandemic, now things have changed, obviously. During the pandemic, the pattern of people movement completely changed, right? Because, I mean, I remember stories of immigrant workers from different cities going back to their villages, right? And traveling far and wide. And all of this data has been used by many NGOs and humanitarian agencies. And we have been able to predict what will happen as well based on AI and machine learning. Like I said, training data based on past experiences that is fed into a model that generates these predictions. Now, the question is, what is the probability that two people from geographic regions were in contact for a time meaningful to transmit this coronavirus? Here's the other way of doing this. Like if there are a lot of people moving from a city that is infested with the virus, then how do we make sure that this information is sent to the places where they are going to, so hospitals can be prepared for the pandemic, right? So this is called the co-location data. And this is used in the National Tsinghua University and Harvard Chan School of Public Health to model the public health, to model COVID-19 in Taiwan. Taiwan used this dramatically. And there was papers published also on this. again, this is very strong applications of AI and ML coming to life during the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, there is more stuff done in California, and eventually all of this was also used in Mexico. This is Mexico's health minister talking about this and how it has been using this data to fight the pandemic. All right, so then this one again is in New York. Data talking about connectedness index, how based on people's connections, how much is the probability of a certain spread happening, and how hospitals can be better prepared to deal with it. You can also now predict based on age, right? The elderly people are much more at a chance of being sick and possibly needing hospitalization. And here's a crackdown of the data based on elderly. This is based on, this is a publication that was very useful for helping hospitals get ready to treat the elderly based on AI/ML models that was built in 2020 to help address this crisis. All right. We also collected a lot of the data doing surveys, and this survey was also another thing that got fed into the model. And then finally, all over the world, the applications of AI and ML have come together to solve humanitarian crisis that includes COVID-19, a lot of areas where there were forest fires, areas where there has been flooding, including in Kerala. When flooding happened in Kerala, we had to really put together a crack team that would create maps for areas that were not actually reachable through current and existing Google Maps data. So we had to create maps overnight so that humanitarian agencies could reach those areas to help with the flooding. Cool. That is pretty much the presentation part of my talk. More than happy to take questions. And Vishal, please let me know if this is a good time to take questions.
Yes, Professor. Questions must be taken. Any audience, if you have questions, please. Rashi, please see what the questions are there.
Yes, sir.
There are a few questions. Yeah, Rashi, go ahead.
So, sir, we have taken the questions from the audience. So the first question will be, how soon will artificial intelligence will replace coders?
Not anytime soon. There is a lot of talk of AI taking over the world, including eliminating the need for programmers. But in my assessment, it's not going to be anytime soon, if at all. There is some element of human intelligence that has to do with empathy and being able to make decisions based on emotions that I think is extremely hard to be modeled in AI or any kind of science. And I think this is also related to, if you talk to doctors, they'll tell you many times a lot of the decisions that they make are not necessarily based on textbooks and experiences that they have, purely based on science. A lot of it is gut, a lot of it's based on their emotions. And that is hard to replicate in any of the models. So at least my assessment is that it's almost impossible to replace that, given what we know now.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, Rashi. Yeah, go ahead.
Vishal, sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Tripathi. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. This is Dr. S.S. Tripathi. When we are doing research in this AI/ML, generally the question researcher used to ask in our review paper that what is the newness in your network? How can we deal with that? Because everywhere that when we use CNN or something like that, it looks like similar thing. So what will be your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, this area is exploding, right? There is so much of parallel activity happening across universities in different parts of the world. And it's very common for people to be stumbling upon similar ideas. Like you talked about, neural networks, and, there is like even fancier techniques that are being developed as we speak. And the question of what is newness is always raised by the academia, given that there are so many different parallel works that are happening in different places. I would suggest focusing on applications, because this is the amazing thing about AI, right? The needs for each community, the needs for each area, the needs for each location is very different and unique. So even if there is no new mathematical model, or even if you do fundamentally different mathematical models, if you can establish the usefulness of it in the context of use cases that are unique to you, I think there's a tremendous amount of power. A lot of the stuff that we have done at Facebook using the latest in neural networks, deep learning, whatever be it, is not science that was not available elsewhere. In fact, a lot of it is even open source. But what we did unique and that got a lot of adoption and value was applying it in the context of what the local needs were, applying it in the context of what the unique situation in each of those scenarios were. So concrete examples are like when we build maps, each place, each continent, each country had its own unique ways of mapping buildings. Like I said, in Thailand, it's all thatched roofs because coconut leaves are available there. So they can put up roofs based on coconut leaves. But if you go to Africa, different parts, some of them are bamboo because what is bamboo is available there. Many of them are mud because all they have is soil that is clay. So they used buildings with mud roofs. In different parts, it was asbestos. So using that local knowledge and applying the same algorithm, but in that context to produce powerful applications was very unique and very valuable, right? And the other example is using data sets for fighting the pandemic. You can use the same data set for fighting coronavirus that you can use for estimating other kinds of election data, right? You can say population density is a fundamental data sets that can be used and for understanding traffic patterns, how people move. How people move can be used for transportation as well as for fighting a pandemic. So I would say, of course, push the envelope for science, but also apply it in the context of then applications that are very relevant to you and your scenario. If it is somewhere in BIT Mesra, and there are local concerns around how industry is developing in western eastern part of India, maybe there is some application that can be a very powerful one that motivates your paper and really draws attention to it, and in the process adding value. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I wish you good luck with your search, Dr. Tripathi.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think for us it's a good evening. I am Sambat Mathur from Bangalore. I am audible to everyone?
Yes, I can hear you, Sambat.
Yeah. Yes. So just you are telling the application, algorithm, and for the different application, is there any baseline for AI which can be diverted or make use of that for the different application? Aerospace, particularly I am dealing with the aerospace HAL. Okay, so different things are there, all neighboring countries and this that all application. How AI can be expanded with a baseline algorithm?
Yeah, so I think lot of that can be experimented using open source toolkits that are available now for the baseline. I talked about PyTorch. Please, are you familiar with PyTorch?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been using PyTorch in your applications?
Yeah, we are using that. Particularly, we are design and development for the HL. Okay, and we are giving our MOD also has invited us and asking so many things and different applications. So how we will do, particularly maintenance of the rotary wing, this, that, all one or two application we have made ready. So this way, all algorithm we have to develop, or some baseline is there, we can make use of that.
Yeah, so each industry has its own ways of defining the baseline. So in your case, it's aerospace you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there is an aerospace AI machine learning group or society that has used many of these in the context of even within the aerospace area, like subsections of it. I'm not sure exactly what your area is, but I have a feeling that given the popularity and adoption that this area is getting, there are data sets available, models available that you may be able to leverage from in the context of your own needs. I'm not an aerospace expert, but I can tell you about the fact that for computer vision, which we use a lot, there are already existing models that can be used to build from and expand upon.
Okay, second question. One of the project of we wanted to sponsor to them. They told they will be using the AI based technology from our BIT Mesra. Okay, but during while going deep, they were not just they were not in good shape. How you will help BIT students or guide the BIT student to make the AI technology in faster mode and in a useful applications? That is there for the BIT Mesra's guidance. We need your guidance.
Okay, so the guidance you need for how BIT Mesra can make AI ML to be much more accessible to the students, as well as help them with gaining access to technology that's based on AI ML and push them to be much more familiar and become experts eventually in this subject. Is that a question?
Yeah. What again? One my suggestion and recommendation to you as well as the BIT students. They should have, because you are our own students, and you can guide them and regular interaction with Dr. Bisal and our team. I think I have interacted with Rasi Kujur also, one of the interactions. So we request you kindly help the people to take forward the AI things from our college side, because they have the pressure of degree, as well as they should have the knowledge for the future also. This is my basic request to you and as well as the institute.
Thank you, Pambat sir. Thank you. Professor Subbu is kind enough to accept our invitation, and with the help of BITMA North America, already they are extending the support. So I am sure that after this interaction, we will be very much having interaction with Professor Subramanian. Thank you for taking this, Pambat sir.
Good. Thank you.
Happy to help. Happy to help. By the way, Dr. Vishal, quick question for you. On that note, do we have any classes on artificial intelligence as part of the formal curriculum, either for BTech Computer Science or MCA?
Happy to let you know that we have started a full-fledged BTech in artificial intelligence and machine learning this year.
Very good.
We have introduced this particular course now because it is a demand of the day.
Very good. Very good. Happy to hear.
Yeah. Any further questions? Anybody?
Sir, Professor Subbu. Yeah. So good evening. I have one question. Is it audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So actually, we are looking for like AI ML's like tools for like event detection, especially for UAV based event detection. Suppose like machine learned, the computer vision event detections, but UAV based, not so normal camera based. So what are the tools available? Can you suggest some tools?
Can you expand upon what UAV based means?
Unmanned aerial vehicle based. So
Got
the images captures through UAVs. So
Yeah.
generally in that case, the things are not visible, especially we are looking for crowds and right.
Yeah.
Apart from the like thermal imagings, what
Yeah.
other tools are available we can apply for AI ML based?
Absolutely.
No, here slightly before handing over to that Dr. Subbu, just I have this line. We have started from HL also. This UAVs and others. This your is basically RF is the media from where you can interact with the ground and intelligence. One UAV should be there which can coordinate to ground the master and for the mothership aircraft. This is the UAV. Nowadays we are developing from HL also and all over India. Today also itself I have seen that Navy want this swarming of the UAVs. So that one there further Dr. Subbu will guide us.
Yeah, so this is a great question in terms of how you can use unmanned aerial vehicles to collect data that will be useful for a variety of applications. I don't exactly know the application that you have in mind, but RF-based technology sorry, go ahead, Sanjeet.
Yeah, Professor, we are looking for event detections, like for infrastructure, like plannings or like city plannings, other things are it is happening, but still we are looking for surveillance purpose only. Like, so in that case, how this AIML can help, right? And what are the tools available?
What are the kind of events you have in mind, Sanjeet?
We like what we are looking for, like sometimes like crowds, sudden crowd movements or like unwanted undesired movement, sudden something's happened and then crowd is scattering, right? So like unwanted undesired events or situations we are looking for.
Got it.
So things are going.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, if you're going to use optical signals, this is a classic computer vision problem. And there are plenty of computer vision models that allow you to kind of detect this kind of disparities. But the challenge here is that many times you may not have visibility through optics, right? Because there may be clouds, there may be, all kinds of obstructions, there may be trees. So the thermal imaging is the other solution, which I think you probably will be already working on or aware of, because thermals obviously can penetrate different layers of both atmosphere as well as obstructions, including trees and buildings. But thermals also their problems can be reflected heat and depending on the day or depending on how much cloud exists, it can have some false signals. But you can combine a whole different sets of techniques. LiDAR is the other one. I don't know how much LiDAR is something that your company and team have been exposed to, but LiDAR provides a great amount of really fine-grained, detailed information about different types of structures and their movements. In fact, LiDAR is the one, as you all know, is used for mapping roads and buildings from cars, right? So drones, which have these capabilities built in them, can provide you the input data. But at the end of the day, the data is just data, right? We need to be able to mine that with precision using AI ML techniques, and be it computer vision, be it other kinds of anomaly detection models. But I'm assuming that there is no one single solution to the problem of event detection using unmanned vehicles, given all the challenges that exist. So you will have to resort to having different types of solutions being kind of cobbled together and over a period of time build a model that is most effective for your application. Does that make sense, Sanjeet?
Yeah. So one more thing, like see, as you suggest, like we can go for AML solutions also. But what problems what we are facing, that the energy is the biggest constraint in the UAV also.
Yes.
The moment we go for AI/ML techniques to those UAVs, is it feasible to can we afford that much computational complexity at the UAV level?
Yeah.
And so in that term, like, what is your points?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So typically in all of these applications, the assumption is that you have a connectivity to the UAV that is established, where a bunch of the work is actually happening in your backend, in your servers on the data center, be it in your data center, or be it in a huge compute that is in a car that is driving by, or a van that is parked nearby, right? The thing that is most important, and UAVs are extremely sensitive to power consumption, like you correctly pointed out, and you really want to be in a place where you have a strong high bandwidth connectivity that is established with all the computation being pushed to the backend. That's one. The second one is there are specialized chips that are available that are low power consuming, especially for computer vision models, that can be embedded in drones and other types of devices that have low power requirements. Now, they may not be as powerful in terms of compute as you would expect if you are to be in a data center. But again, what you're not looking for is precision. You're looking for more of especially if you have early warning signs, if you have suspicion, then you can deploy other kinds of techniques to kind of build based on the initial observation. So yeah, power is a concern, but there are ways to kind of deflect it to either a backend that is running through a high bandwidth connectivity, or having customized chips that are on board the drones.
Yeah, fine. Thank you, Professor.
Sure. Looks like Srinivas has a question.
Yes, Srinivas, you can unmute yourself. You are already unmuted. Srinivas, go ahead. I think he is not there now. Any other questions, anybody? I guess no more questions, Professor. It was a wonderful interactive session, and I hope everybody has enjoyed it. Rashi, if you could propose the vote of thanks, please. Okay, Rashi is also not there. Yeah, Rashi.
Yes,
Rashi,
sir.
would you?
Yes, sir.
Please, yeah, please increase your voice, dear. Okay. Go ahead, Rashi.
So can you hear me properly?
Yeah, I'm hearing you here.
Yes, sir. So thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing your valuable information with us. Being a college student, it was really informative for me as well. And I'd also like to thank Vishalet Shah, sir, for holding such a webinar for all the students and professors too. It was grateful for you, for us to have you here.
Professor Subramanian, I will be contacting you for further requirements, because machine learning and artificial intelligence is something which our students keep on doing projects onto. And if any support can be extended, it would be great from your side.
Happy to do so. Thank you for the opportunity. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, BIT Mesra was the place where a lot of the foundations for my learning and growth was laid, and I would be grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Good
Dr.
night.
Vishal. Okay, I will be coming next week there, BIT Mesra. I may meet you.
Most welcome, sir. Most welcome. I'm always there, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. My house is nearby.
Okay. Okay. We'll meet.
Next, boat is mine only. BIT Mesra reverse.
Okay. Okay, sir. We'll meet, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you and good night.